Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Age of Ashes Pathfinder 2nd Edition, the Elven Portal Podcast, Episode 6, Season 2, Episode 7. There's been some debate about our name, the Elven Portal Podcast. Now, I thought it was obvious because, well, I mean, there is a portal ring called Estelle's Ring made by elves. They are elven portals. I mean, there's even elven statue gods going, check out our portals. But no. The people have cried out for us to rename the adventure is about a portal ring. But, you know, there's been a bit of a bone of contention with some of the fans and a lot of the cast members that the podcast should be renamed because the Elven Portal Podcast sounds very namby-pamby. And we have 3 dwarves who came down the mountain distinctly on their own time and adventure to open a microbrewery here in Baldur's Gate. No, Breach Hill. That's right. Sorry. Well, portals, you know, could happen. So I would like you, the listener, to email us at rollmongers@gmail.com or leave a comment on our YouTube or in our Discord or in any way you so choose to communicate. I mean, we even got a poll going up on Twitter at rollmongers, and I want to fire off some of the awesome titles that people, cast and fans have been sticking in our faces. So I was like, they're obviously taking this seriously. They don't like what I named the show, I guess. So here we go. If you were to personally rename the Elven Portal P2E Age of Ashes podcast based on the main cast of 3 Scottish accented dwarves who have come down the mountain to open a microbrewery, but have to adventure to raise the capital, what would you call it? Portal Brew. Dwarves Against the Storm. Bash, Crash, and a Whole Lot of Balderdash. Stout Portaling. I like that one. That's good. The Family Brew. Big City Nights. Don't get that one. 3 Dwarves, 1 Cup. And I think, who was it that really hated that? Was it Matt?
No.
Brewmeister's Quest. Big Trouble in Little Dwarfburg. Dandelion Mead, A Dwarf's Guide to the Elven Palate. Commune with Spirits, A Tipsy Torog Tale. Get it? Spirits are strong alcohol. Chug, A Dwarf's Guide to Solving All Your Problems with Alcohol.
Sounds like a good life guide to me.
Yeah. The Drunken Dwarf Podcast. The Acolytes of Alcohol. Like that one. The Loaded Die. The Loaded Dice. Loaded as in drinking, you're loaded, right? Though I'm assuming if we actually went with Loaded Dice Podcast, people would just think that we're cheating. Like straight up, just like, why would you listen to an actual play podcast if all the dice are you know, loaded? But, you know, we do get a lot of natural 1s and 20s on the old fantasy grounds, just saying. Gentlemen, do you have anything off the top of your head to add? No, they're just wondering why I brought this up. Because it's what the fans want. So, please, leave us a comment below, in the comments below. Email us at rollmongers@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts and feelings, or should we just leave well enough alone? With me tonight, Matt Witt, Ryan Messsina, Joe Gibson, revising the roles of 2 out of 3 dwarves and their human cleric of Caden Clelian that resides at Caden's Keg in the center, a circumference of the circle. Joe just loves that I can actually pronounce this god's name right now.
Well, close. It's close enough. Close enough.
No? Okay.
Close enough.
We'll go with it.
Yeah.
So I would like to first go back in time to when you guys were headed to the 2nd or 3rd dungeon and you ran into Dahlgren, who had come out with the body of a rogue, his elven female roguish partner, and he had worked with, what happens in dungeon stays in the dungeon. He had worked with Alex Stagram, the wannabe Hell Knight with the Rinko Suave voice that you guys adventured with. You remember he was after the ring? Now you guys actually found his ring and a bunch of like family portraits and stuff. And I can't remember if you guys actually said that you gave that up, like sent it to him. Think you did, possibly, maybe. Do we know? Do we remember? Do we care? Did we just
I
sell?
do believe we did.
Did we just sell it for the money? Those paintings were sold, but here you can have your family ring, right? Signet ring.
Yeah.
Can't sell this. It's too hot an item. So going now and bringing back Rob Hammond, revising his role tonight as Dulgrin, Truthseeker, the temple, but not the Caden's Keg. The scene falls upon another temple. Now, fast forwarding to the recent present, while Miros was running around at the waypoint and beyond, showing off his human friend to the dwarves, and even beforehand, when you guys had come back after the last mission and had the deed to the actual Hellkeep, I believe it was Theowen, Frank Hamilton's character, that was nominated to go stick it in front of the council because he loves thumbing his nose at them. And that leaves Matt and you guys had gathered all your items and sold off a crap ton of magical stuff. And then later to discover that maybe you had erred and some of that magical stuff might be needed back. So I believe Albrecht Stonechucker has comprised a short list of items that are needed. Matt?
Hello. Right then, so basically what I've done is I've ruled out all of the items that we know are most likely not to be tokens to activate the portals. Things like potions, scrolls, and anything we had a decent identification on. There wasn't very many things that didn't fall under those categories.
Didn't Theowen run up because we saw the jungle and forest motif on the one gate, and he ran up with his little owlbear claw that he found. He's like, he touched it and scratched it and nothing happened. He was like, okay, never mind. And that was the reason why we just ran off and sold everything else.
Oh yeah, of course we would go through the stuff we've got on us first. I believe Miros had a monkey pin. I've got a feather fan.
Oh, no, I mean, before you guys realized that you needed a key, I think Theowen played with the owlbear claw, touched it, nothing happened. Then you guys ruled out a key, ran off, sold just about everything, and now came back, spellcraft the portal, and went, oh crap, we actually need a key, and hence our conundrum. And now at this point, like you said, you're going through so who has the monkey pin?
Muros. I do.
Oh, okay. And just out of curiosity, what would you guys try to do to use these with the portal?
Well, obviously, we'd look to see if there's any depressions in the shape of any items we may have stumbled across. Beryl's information about it being based on Elven religions would have given me a little bit to go on, and maybe I would have taken some time in town to do some research on Elven religion to see if there's anything that, matches or could be aligned with that sort of thing.
Right. Now that is information that you have now at the end of episode 6. I'm talking about going back in time, what you were doing for the last 4 days. Before,
tracking stuff down. Yeah.
Right. And trying whatever was on hand, before you
go. So first thing I would have done is gone to the shop to see if I could get any other stuff back.
Oh, okay. So do you guys even remember, did you guys just run around haggling, or did you guys went straight to quarters and bits?
Yeah, we just went to one place, and I think we sold a lot of it.
Okay. So you return to, you know what, I'm actually going to pull up the map here really quick for our visual audience. And on the west side of town, down near the river, about a block away from the river, and not on the other side of the street from the wall, I give you quarters and bits.
Oh, right there. Yeah, I see it.
A dual storefront is the home on one side to a general store called Bits, and on the other, a weapon and armor smith called Quarter. From the outside, the business seems separate until it becomes clear that they are both the effort of the proprietor, Crink Twiddleton. I am not making this name up, I swear. This male halfling merchant is called Crink Twiddleton. You remember him to be a fast-talking halfling whose sales skills see him selling as much outlandish items to you that you didn't even know you needed before you walked into his store and you found yourself leaving, or most customers do. Now returning and armed with the knowledge that he's a crook, that he is a good salesman, and you want to buy back what you purchased. There's a slight problem with capital, because when you take a magical item, say it's worth 100 silver, and you sell it, the generic price in the game is like you get 50% with no haggling. They'll give you half price. Now you want to buy it back, they're going to charge you full price or more, depending on its rare, consistency, availability, blah, blah, blah. So do you guys even have the capital to buy everything back?
Oh, possibly. We've got, a couple 100 gold, and a few things we could perhaps trade.
Okay. Unless, of course, you could...
Or I could rob them.
Just walk around like in a grocery store, like filling the hat, right? It's the same stuff. They'd never suspect the guy that sold it to him 3 days ago. Is that, yeah.
That's a clever way to do it, really.
No. Sure. Or...
So, I think maybe I'd probably approach him and not be like, oh, I need these items. Because he's a sly, crafty little business halfling. So I'd probably inquire as to how well they sold. Seeing if I was of assistance to his business. First off.
Okay. Hitting the store in the early hours, you spot the halfling wearing his standard smart-looking suit, his large, jaunty hat. And despite his cheesy charisma, it's not hard to escape the quality that he actually has some of the finest goods available in town in his storefront. This is not a dollar store kind of setup where he's just trying to rip you off and once you drive off the car lot, too bad you're on your own some duct tape. You know what I mean? A lot of his merchandise is really good stuff. However, he's busy with a customer at the moment. You see the back of what looks like a diminutive figure on a stool. So he's eye to eye with the raised bench of the halfling leaning over the counter. The two of them are in quiet conversation. So not only do you get mostly the back, but there is that open profile. Rubber boots going all the way up to the small gnome's knees. Inserted are some faded jean overalls, and the pockets begin right above the knee with all sorts of tools, bric-a-brac all hanging out of them. Like a gunslinger leaning on a bar, he actually has a trench coat and his arm is pulled back. This is what's revealing all these tools. It's what's known as a pea jacket, like a trench coat that goes down to mid-thigh, leather and very worn and faded. You can tell he's a gnome for two reasons. One, his size, and second, of course, the wild hairstyle. It has no facial hair, but there are the gigantic eyebrows and the haircut that has become much like the character video game Sonic that goes straight back, because so much wood glue this guy has passed through this guy's fingers and then pushing back his hair out of his face while he's working. He actually has sort of a hardened corona of hair that pushes straight back and holding the other hair in place straight off of his head, and they are leaned together, rapidly negotiating something, and there's a bunch of metal parts and wooden something, like wooden doweling kind of thing on the actual counter that obviously they're negotiating a price for. Do you speak Gnomish?
I do not.
Okay.
Actually, hold on, let me check. I might. Let's find out. No, I do not.
Okay. Because luckily for the gnome, the halfling does, though you can see that the halfling is sort of walking through the terminology, and then the gnome's going off more and more and more. Anyway, what do you want to do? Do you want to interrupt? Do you want to wait?
No, I'll wait my turn. Take a look at, see if I can sneak a peek at what they're bartering over to see if any of them are the items I'm looking for.
Okay.
Other than that, I'll give him his space.
Okay.
I'm not trying to piss the the wee ones off before I even have a conversation with them.
Okay. When you belly up to the counter, even like at the far end, they both stop and turn, right? And the gnome just kind of puts out one of those large steampunk gloved, leather gauntlets, right? And does the dealer rake, like chops all the parts between you and him and just kind of pulls them towards himself. So there's no debate that he's in the middle of buying the stuff. It's not out, spread, because there's a bunch of stuff spread way along the counter. He just like leans way out and does the big rake, looking eyeballing at you, right? And he says, in common,
if you just wait till I'm finished with this bartering here, I'd be glad to turn this storekeep over to you if you would just not interrupt the process we're in the middle of. I see you have things to purchase, but if you just...
I am not here to interrupt. You guys carry about your business. I'll just have a gander. Wait my turn. Go, carry on.
Much obliged.
And they go back to it, and he leaves you a chance to look around. Maybe perhaps some of the items you sold are on display.
Yeah.
Now,
I'll do the cursory search, while they're doing their thing, and keep my eyes open for any other items that might catch my interest.
Okay. You were looking for a portal key, and my understanding is you've kind of narrowed the idea down to something like an amulet, which is on a string or on a rope or on a piece of jewelry, or like you guys tried the monkey pin and it's a brooch, or like a singular object made out of something semi-precious, or at least something that you can enchant that is portable, fits in one hand. Could even be something like a dagger and it's the gem in it, or but you're obviously looking for finery that can be enchanted to be a portal key. It's probably, like you said, nothing, no liquids, none of that kind of thing. Not a robe.
Yeah, there were a bunch of items that I couldn't identify properly that were magical, and those are like obviously top of the list.
Okay.
And then I go to the more mundane or more use, like I'll be bopping the breastplate up against the portals if I can't find my, what I mean? Never know.
Yeah.
And then like I said, take some time to do some research on Elven religions to cross-reference to see if any of those items kind of ping up in their general pantheons for the different gods that Beryl identified.
Okay. So eventually, the gnome comes to some sort of agreement, because there is they both just suddenly like stop talking. They both lean way back and hork into each other's hand, and they just grab in the big handshake, shake each other vigorously, almost vibrating off their stools, and then depart. And the gnome, just without saying a word, does a 180, hops off his stool, and heads out the door in his rubber boots.
I'll just kind of watch him go.
Right. Out storefront, hangs a right, and disappears in the alley. Crink starts placing the items. He pulls a box and starts placing the items in like a crate. So obviously it's like, okay, this stuff is sold. He'll probably ship it to him or just keep him out back or whatever. So Crink is there packing up all the stuff. You turn to Crink, and then a few moments later, there's a strange noise coming from outside around said corner. A disturbing shutter, and then a rattle, and then a consistent steam sort of escaping through the front and back of a cat that's been impaled, with a rattle of brass and creaking of wood. And then suddenly, tearing out around the corner into plain eye view out the doorway and the window of the shop, you see in very fast motion the same gnome riding atop what you may have first dismissed as a rain barrel or a few storage barrels in the alley. It looks like a pile of barrels lashed together and bolted together on wheels.
That's cool.
And a track. And he just goes ripping off in this thing. And then all of a sudden, like there's levers and stuff on top, like it comes like reaming right out of there, right out into like the main thing of traffic. And then all of a sudden he just kind of like hits the clutch and it stalls just in time, and a horse or something goes by, and you don't know if he like that was an accident and he was just lucky he didn't ram into something or something. Then he does a bunch of adjustments again, and then fires it up and he goes
no. You see him visibly relax and like hold his chest and kind of just lean back in the chair, like, You hear that?
Yeah.
You're just seeing it
Yeah.
alone.
All right. Well, I'll
Yeah.
turn and head back towards Crick while he's packing up.
Do you remember the scene in Wild West where Kevin Kline got into the tricycle and turned it on, and then there's Will Smith riding the horse, and then eventually he catches up on his motorized big penny farthing wheel, and it's just a big bunch of smoke and rattling noise. It goes flying past him. Picture something like that, just just that kind of thing, and you could hear it off in the distance, still going, right? So by time Crick has Mr. Thrilton has packed up all the guy's stuff and put it away, he, thumbs in his lapels, turns to you. How are you on this fine morning, my good friend? Do you have more items to sell me today? Boy, you must be venturing aplenty on the outside thanks to the council.
Aye, that we are. Speaking of which, I hope you are able to move those items that we sold to you before in a timely manner.
Oh, don't you worry. Fine items sell themselves, sir.
True story. Speaking of which, you don't happen to have any of them on hand still?
Oh? Well, I suppose I still have. Let's see. Anyway, he goes under the counter. He pulls up like a great big book. So instead of like wandering the store and looking for where he's put stuff, or like digging out a glass case, or maybe what's even hiding in the back is too valuable.
The inventory register.
The great big book on the thing. It's like, let's see. Yes. Oh, yes. No. Yes. Oh, yes. And yes. And no, nothing. I mean, it's only been 3 days.
Oh, right then. Good.
Well, but he says, there is some interesting parties that ask to have these items that you brought in praised. Apparently, there's a few items, certain engravings, possibly of an arcane, religious, or occult, or even primal nature, led the customer or myself to believe that, well, let's just say significance is everything. If there's always magic and style and quality of a jeweled item or of a mundane item, but if there's historic significance, religious significance, well, you could see how, if I could prove that, the items would become much more valuable.
Of course. So I take it that you'd be more than interested if we happen to come across any more of them.
Oh, of course.
Excellent.
Just remember, I try to deal in only the finest quality.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt any less of you, sir.
Excellent. So, slams the book. What can I interest you in purchasing of my wares this morning?
I'm actually, now that you mention it, you were talking of relics of religious importance. What kind of items of that regard would you have in leaning towards the Elven persuasion?
Well, let's see. There's a few. I mean, elves worship all sorts of things. So any sort of natural depiction, be it animal, mineral, or vegetable, could possibly lead to elven craftsmanship, or perhaps elven religion, or occultism, or even in the arcane. Several of those items that you brought in could, well, let's just say we're looking into everything.
Oh, I'm not asking about the stuff I brought in. I'm asking what else you have along those veins, lad. If I wanted those items, I wouldn't have sold them to you, don't you know?
Of course.
I thought you called yourself a businessman. That doesn't seem quite shrewd.
Well,
but I jest.
I pride myself on customer service. I am so sorry I misunderstood your question.
No, it's, you know what? I'll chalk it up to you just trying to give me the full experience.
He says, my dwarven is a bit rusty, but I could, if you'd prefer to converse in your own language, I could try to.
Albert just kind of cringes as he butchers it. Nay.
It's a great day for a barrel race. Huh?
That was an interesting fellow you had in here before. What if you do you know what that contraption was that he spit on our area.
Oh, you must mean Mr. Torque. Oh, yes, very valuable customer. Why, he's in here 2-3 times a month. And always pays in cash. As I prefer my clients too. As to his machine, well, I can tell you absolutely nothing. I think that's
Fair enough.
It's an amazing contraption that he will not share the secrets of. I mean, if you could ever possibly slow him down to talk to him while he's upon it. Otherwise, well, let's just say you wouldn't want to get in his way when he's on it and ask those questions.
I cannot say my eyes have ever seen anything of its like before.
It is an interesting concept of a motorized carriage. Why, I actually have several blueprints that I could show you. But anyway, he pulls out a book, right, and gives you like a little. He folds a page and shows you like the bottom of a schematic with legit writing and like half of some kind of a diagram. He doesn't show you the whole thing, but he's just kind of like, we have so much. Some actually submitted by Torque himself. Like this siege castle apparatus is quite intriguing. See the bottom of a tower. It's supposed to like roll up to a castle and just disassemble it. Giant mechanical arms are just going to pull it apart brick by brick. The problem is defending such tower, but it still demands a genius. I wouldn't.
Oh, that brings up another thing. What are the chances of you having a blueprint or a proper layout for the citadel up on Hell Knight Hill then?
No. That the Hell Knight Hill has been abandoned for at least 11 years, at least until you miraculously found the deed. He smiles. Word travels fast.
I'll give him a dwarven wink, which basically means I punch him in the mouth. Not.
I haven't actually seen the place, but I'm sure that is quite the rundown fixer-upper. I wouldn't mind taking that deed off your hands for, of course, a very, shall we say, fair price for the real estate.
You think you're going to convince me, a dwarf, to give up a stone-built citadel in the humans' lands? I doubt it. It's a beautiful piece of work. And trust me, by the time me and me cousins are finished, it's going to be a work of art.
He says, really? He says, well, I have to offer. And he pulls a pen and paper and he scribbles down a figure, folds it, and slides it across the table at you.
I'll take the piece of paper without even looking at it.
Yeah.
Tuck it in my pocket.
Okay.
And then lean in and say, but we are looking for investors for a brewery that we're getting started just outside of town.
Really? So is that what you fine gentlemen have been up to all this time?
What's been the purpose of our visit to this neck of the woods to begin with? Believe it or not, the citadel was a distraction.
Where would you
profitable one?
Where would you set up a brewery in the wilderness?
Oh, trust me, lad. It does a little Dr. Evil.
Yeah.
We dwarves have our secrets and we like to keep them.
Of course. And I'm assuming that since you and your party were personally responsible for driving those bandits and Miss Vaz out of the old way station amongst the cave complex, that such a location would be ill-suited to such a large brewery or endeavor.
Aye. It wouldn't work all that well, but we may have use for it when it comes to transporting our product back up into the Five Kings Mountains.
Well, I have to say that that outpost hasn't been used by the government or these people since the war, and well, since it was overrun by bandits, and then rumor has it that you, shall we say, have cleared the place out. You know what they say, finders keepers.
Aye, we did find it.
Yes.
Gives him a wink.
Yes, you must be one of the luckiest dwarves in all creation. He says, you and your fellows have...
Me? Lucky? No, it's all Muros.
Really?
If I didn't know his ma better, I would have thought that she had done some mischief with a leprechaun, the way that one's luck rolls.
I don't suppose your friend would be interested in selling his services for a little community work?
What's something you probably have to take up with him? I'm not his keeper, I'm just his cousin. But I'll put in a good word for you.
He says, I'll tell you what. He says, I will increase that sum by an entire 3% if even publicly, but not truthfully, just the possibility of your fine, rippled, chest-haired friend making it known that he's willing to train anyone and everything in the field of acrobatics.
Oh, you should see these wee goblins up at the Cape. They idolize him. Perhaps you could join the like of them.
Oh, no. I don't wish to train myself. He says, Miss Nolly Peltry. And he says the name savoringly, like it's obviously a halfling woman that he has his eyes on, is the town's current acrobatic trainer. But she has too much clientele at the moment and very little free time for after, shall we say, a gentleman who might wish to court her after he closes his shop.
Oh, ye sly little devil. I see what you're getting at there.
He says,
all right.
And if your friend were to pick up the slack of some of the clientele, well, I don't want to drive her out of business. I mean, there's plenty of flabby humans about to, for Miss Nolly to train. But if I could just get her weekends off, I think I might have a shot.
You're asking us dwarves to play cupids.
I'm asking you to help a poor woman that's just overly burdened with her own business, and a little competition is always good for the town as well as both competitors. Anyone having a monopoly on, well, Miss Peltry's time can't be a good thing. But if we all could share in her time, business and extracurricular, then I think that'd be a good thing for all of us.
I see what you're getting at. Well,
anyway,
listen,
he gets a very serious face. He points at your pocket, 3%.
First and foremost, we've made it quite clear that we're not coming to Breach Hill to step on anyone's toes here. We don't want to make enemies we don't even know we're going to have if we do something like that. But I will say this. I can be sure that word of Muros' exploits and his willingness to share his lessons with others who are interested in learning, I can certainly make sure words of that get spread around town.
Well, I have to say, I don't know about enemies, but the way you, shall we say, handle our fine council and some of the private business owners in town have certainly raised a few eyebrows. I'm so glad you choose to tread lightly everywhere else you go. And he kind of spreads his hands out here like, I've got no beef with you.
Well, I mean, sure, we're a bit gruff, particularly when Theon takes his hand at the negotiations, but I prefer a little bit more of a delicate touch. Speaking of which, just out of curiosity, do you have a list of those items that I sold to you?
No, I thought you said you weren't interested.
Oh, it's not for me. I've had some inquiries from an elven friend.
Oh, I see. You wish to possibly bring in a customer?
Oh, aye, for a bit of a finder's fee.
Uh-huh. And what
gives him the wink?
And what percentage of commission are you asking? Assuming I can interact with this fine elven personage and close the deal on whichever item that you've already brought me.
Well, you seem to be a big fan of the number 3, so let's go with 3%. I'm not looking to get rich. If I can help my friend and make a bit of coin on the side, I'd be very happy with that. Or how about this? Don't pay me nothing, but give me a good rates whenever I come in to visit. Like I said, I had a feeling we're going to be around this town for a while, so I like to make friends where I go, and you seem like a friendly chap.
All right. So you would forego a one-time finder's fee of 3% on a certain, several, like obviously it's a lot of money when you sell a magical item, right? For like a discount on everything I have all the time. Like obviously you're getting the deal there, but he's like, He says, well, bring in the elven gentleman and, we'll see how that goes. And I will certainly remember to point out what might be on sale, particularly for you and your cousins on certain days of the week, shall we say?
All right, all right. So about that list.
Right. So he goes back into the book and he's, goes through it and he starts coughing out this, and you guys had some trinkets and some odds and ends. There were a couple of things that I don't think you guys were interested in. You sold, like I said, you sold off potions or whatever. Then we got to some certain items.
Yep.
And he gives you a list of like half a dozen items that you sold him. Anyway, he describes them to you. And since you've made such a big lean, right, you notice the closest thing you could figure out that would be of interest to an elf is nothing. But there is something, it's a bit of a stretch, but there was an arrowhead. And it radiated magic. It wasn't a magical arrow, it was just the arrowhead.
Oh, okay.
And
like almost a pendant type of deal.
Yeah. Well, it should like there didn't look like it was actual, like it looked like it had an open head, like you could actually bore a shaft into it.
Oh, you could fit it.
Yeah. It was like the real thing. And it had some sort of bird on it. The wings spread up and fit the V of the top of the arrowhead, like the actual cutting edge and that type of thing, right? And it was made of gold or like some sort of, precious metal, whatever. Ranger, elf, they like bows, guardsman, it's not a bolt, but like as far as something that leans towards elven,
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it's a bird, it's an arrowhead. Other things are like the monkey pin. Do elves like monkeys? Are there monkeys in their force? Not so much. But like, and then you go down the list of like bigger and bigger stretches, right? So
okay. And so he said he hadn't sold the items yet?
No.
Okay, perfect. All right then. Thank you, sir. And I'll be talking to you sometime in the near future, I'm sure.
Of course. Come anytime. We're open from sunrise till sunset.
Oh, also, I know this may be a bit out of your wheelhouse, but do you supply any grains in bulk quantity? Specifically looking for rye, barley.
Oh, I'm not a wholesaler, but I'm sure that I could put you in contact with, one of my suppliers and, work out a deal.
I'm looking for grain sourced from perhaps not so local of a area. Anything imported, anything that's got an exotic flavor.
Well, I suppose everything can be arranged. If I don't have something myself because I have the finest qualities and you want something in bulk, I'm sure I could put you in the touch of the right supplier for, of course, a small finder's fee.
Naturally. Well, if you happen to come across anything unique along those lines in your travels,
well, I could
keep me in mind.
I can supply you with 100 pounds of yeast and some copper line right now here on the spot, but
that's good to know. That's good to know. I won't be making the purchase today, but trust me when I say I'll be coming back for that.
Okay. So you head on out of there?
Yep.
Okay. So same day, next day, later on, your next foray in the hunt. What's your next move?
Well, first I have to find an elf. Got to run the long con.
There are elves in town.
Yep.
Who do you want to ask? Excuse me, do you have any elves? I don't see any on the streets here. Oh, no. They have curfew. We only let them out at what? No. Sir.
Is what's her nut still allowed to walk free? The half elf,
You guys tell me. Like,
or is she under arrest?
Theon was like, had her in manacles, and all of a sudden he cut her this deal going, now, if you behave yourself and make yourself useful. But I think he kept her with him. Like, she was out at the keep, and she probably like
That actually makes sense.
drags her around. You know,
He's got to really let that what is it, Munchausen's
yeah.
sink in.
Yeah, exactly, right? So
testing. So next off, I suppose probably the best thing to do would be to get in touch with my half elven friend Voz.
Okay.
Pack her brain.
Okay.
And tell her about my little ploy with Clink or Crink or whatever his name is.
All right. So fast forward to you tracking her down, getting her alone, having a conversation. So we're friends now.
Well, friends may come later. We haven't shared a drink yet. Let's call ourselves pleasant acquaintances.
So, fellow pleasant acquaintance in the arcane arts, I noticed that my belongings have been, shall we say, sorted, though you returned some of them to me. And by sorted, I mean, although you returned my spell book and such to me, Theon has made it quite clear that it's to remain closed, or he'll use it for toilet paper.
Albert just laughs. You could see him doing it too. He's such a blogger, that one.
Tell me, young sorcerer, what are you without your magic?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, one of the finest brewers in my entire generation.
Oh, where's your brewery?
You may see it someday if you continue this altruistic attitude you've been showing towards us lately.
That's such a waste. You are a gifted sorcerer. You sure your studies are misplaced? Crafting is all fine and well, and forgive me for sounding blunt, but dwarven brewing is sort of a dime a dozen industry in these lands, where dwarven sorcery, well, something a bit rarer, wouldn't you say?
Well, that's the rub there. What happens if you bring the two of them together?
The very flat look on her face that just drops like, what? And yet there's this one eyebrow that goes like way up, like, eh?
If she had glasses, this is the time she pushes them up her brow.
Yeah, really. Eh? It's funny because the wife and I just steamrolled through Log Horizon to get caught up to the third season. I got to say, the second season did clank down a little bit, but now we're into third season and they're opening up new ooh-ah of what could be going on. But anyway, sorry, the villain in glasses, right? Poke, poke.
Yep.
Sorry, you were saying?
My plan loosely right now, obviously there's some research that has to go into it, is I want to produce a line of dwarven spirits that are so highly refined. Upon imbibing them, the consumer is blessed with certain attributes, let's say.
So an alcoholic potion.
Essentially.
And how would a general consumer that would actually be interested in such a product be able to afford it? She's giving to the obvious demographic of like, people like beer, buy cheap beer. People like potions, are rich, and save for that potion of strength. You combine the two, then like, who's going to buy this stuff? It's way too expensive for your common guy. And, people that like potions like, well, that's neat, but there's not a lot of those types of custom.
That's why they're spirits.
Aye, lass, I'm not. The brewery is only half of it, really. So I anticipate our clientele to be of the upper echelon of society.
I do have somewhat of a forte and fortitude for running a business, referring to her bookstore. I could prove to be a valuable asset.
Well, time will tell with that one, Lassie.
Well, first,
the meantime-
first you have to trust me with a job other than babysitting your little cousin.
I was just getting to that, lass. Calm down. I do have something for you to help me with. I've began some negotiation with Crink over a few of those items that we what's the word I'm looking for? Acquired during our travels through the keep. 'Cause she obviously knows we're looking for the portal stones or whatever the activating thing, right? She's in the loop. I believe he's got at least one item that may serve that purpose. But I need you to help me with my grift. He's got an arrowhead with a lovely feathered friend chiseled into it. I suspect it may have something to do with the portals, but what I want you to do is I'm going to send you in the shop. You tell him I sent you. And when you examine the item, I want you to tell him it's a blatant forgery.
Okay.
That's it. Pretty simple task, don't you think?
Yeah, it's a quick way to ruin my reputation for knowing what's what, since obviously it isn't.
Well, who's to say?
You want me to say.
Right, I do.
And what do I get out of this? Besides your supposed trust.
Perhaps I could organize a bit of a sit-in reading with you and your magic book and not have Theo turn it into toilet paper.
At this point, you notice that like this entire time, she takes a step forward and there's like a leg iron that rattles. And there's a chain snaking across the floor going towards the privy. And that end of the chain going under the door is shaking a bit.
The end of the chain is shaking?
Yeah, the chain that goes under the door to the privy.
Oh, okay.
Shaking a bit.
Is she shaking it or it's just shaking all by itself?
It's shaking all by itself.
So,
this sort of reinforces the point that she wasn't kidding about Theon and the toilet paper. It might be happening right now. Save my spell book. Call 555. I hate that fucking dwarf.
So I'll continue having small talk whilst working my way towards the privy.
Okay. All right.
So casually make my way over to the privy.
Mm-hmm.
Grab the door, throw it open. What do I see?
A lot more of your cousin than you'd bargained for. No.
Just opens the door. Oh!
Well,
what are you doing? No, not a word. Not a word. Give me that book. Grabs it out of his hand.
Okay.
Use the bong roll. This is not... If I ever caught you with my... Oh, okay. You know what? I can't even do this.
He's beat red, like he's already furious. He's shaking and trembling at you. He's beat red mad that you barged in. He can't even speak, but he does manage to like take fingers and hit the roll, showing you it's empty. Like, of course I'm using like an alternative source, right?
So I'll close the door, go over, grab a couple sheets of blank parchment or whatever that he could use, a towel, a rag, and then kick it under.
Mural spare hand wraps.
Yeah. Ew. I hope he's had his tetanus shot.
Ryan's not pleased with me right now. Look at his face.
Spare ones? Don't care. I wouldn't put them within 5 feet of anything organic, though.
He just fart.
They just smell like an old hockey bag, like that.
He just far worse with them, right? That's why they're discarded.
Yeah. Merles wouldn't touch them.
Yeah. Too rank for the compost heap. Moving on.
Kick it under the door to the privy.
All right.
And for the last time, books are not bong rolls.
All right.
Stupid Stupid matehead. All right. Sorry, I can't even do this. I'll take the book, set it on the table.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, lass? Are we in agreement?
She just nods, scoops up the book, and he starts looking around like somewhere to hide it, right? Like he's gonna search her for the books. It's like I gotta stash this somewhere, right? Yep. Frantic nod. Yeah.
All right. Well, Theon, I'm gonna need your friend tomorrow.
Okay.
And then I'll head on out.
All right. You bail, right? The scene pulls back. She finally got rid of you. He has seconds before he emerges. She has a few moments to stash this book. And it's just her frantically looking up, down, around, under, where can I put it? And then the scene goes back to you trailing across town, the scene pulling out, the sun moving and pulling back in for tomorrow. What's your move tomorrow?
Head in. Take her out for breakfast, get her cleaned up.
Okay.
Make a morning of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She waves, calls people over, introduces you to people. You see an elderly human woman that literally looks like the Elvira, like the long tapering black dress that's revealing on the shoulders, but shouldn't be. The funeral mourning, long, flat, almost like Queen of England hat, only jet black with the mesh that rolls down over her face, and long, black, tapering evening gloves that go way up the elbow. Heading across town like she's just a Tuesday vampire. Do.
Okay.
And Vosh calls out to her, "Oh, Morta," right? The woman turns and places a pinky next to her chin, looks at who it is, and then comes sauntering over. "Why, Va, isn't it a lovely afternoon?" She pulls out like a little tiny hanky and like coughs on it. You expect to see blood. "Oh, excuse me." Tucks it back in her actual bodice. "And who is your stout friend?"
Albrecht Stonechugger of Clan Stonechugger. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. To do a not a low bow, but a curt bow.
Okay.
Take her hand. And
Oh, yeah. No, she totally comes over, leans out, right? And said kerchief is somehow magically appears on her fingertips, but she gives you like the back of the fingers of the glove for you to whatever. Okay. Rasping, airy, complete Harry Potter Luna type of voice. And yet, you act courtly over the extended hand, extracting a very childlike giggle from the woman, which I refuse to do here now. Because I know these guys would never let me move it down.
No, that would definitely be clipped. I'd make a soundboard.
Clip that.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll happen, Jeff. It will happen.
Maybe a little bit of Pillsbury Doughboy mixed in. But anyway, this is what happens, and then you...
Yeah.
Okay.
Exchange pleasantries.
Okay.
Introduce myself and, don't get into extreme detail.
No, but she seems to know you. She's like, "Oh, yes. The sorcerer. Pleasure's all mine."
I see my reputation has preceded me.
Oh, nothing happens in this town without my notice.
Well, I'll keep that in mind, lassie.
Life, birth, tea in the afternoon sun, she says, like pointing at what you guys are doing. And of course, the end. Sunset. Again with the kerchief, right? "You must excuse me. I have so much to do." And then she just goes sauntering off, like like the hands out, giving the hip wiggle. This little old bag just crossing town.
She seems the nice sort, but is she unwell? He asks Voss.
"That one will outlive us all," says Voss. "But she seems to be the center of gossip in town. So if anything happens, even to you, myself, or anyone. Somehow the old bat seems to find out about it.
Well, I appreciate the introduction, then.
Also, a warning. I didn't just introduce you to be civil. Introduced you so you know who to keep your secrets from.
I like her. Maybe I'll steal her.
Well, she's you get her alone, and despite the fact that she's like stone cold, not very nice, she does seem to be playing nice. Anyway, what's today's mission there, Chief? You wanted to exploit your temporary alliance with the town's secret evil half-elf necromancer. More than just good for a COVID supply of toilet paper these days. Please make more use of my talents than just getting Theo and what he needs, right?
So I'll go over, explain the item that in question, and send her in.
Okay. As a buyer, or just I want to see it and then go,
as a buyer,
okay.
or like my friend Albrecht told me you had something that I might be interested in, blah blah blah.
Okay.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So she goes
in,
and
then when she sees it, be like, oh, if this was an authentic item.
Okay.
Not
All right. So she goes in. She's in there for like 15, 20 minutes. Then she comes out.
Okay. I'll escort her. Well, before I leave town, I'll ask her if there's anything she'd like to grab before I escort her back to Theon.
I would like to visit my shop.
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay. So we go back to the shop. She's like, you guys ransacked it, all this kind of stuff. Theon's taken her back there before, but, again, she's like digging stuff or whatever. Anyway, she straightens things up, and that seems to satisfy her. It's not like she distracts you and pulls a secret page from a book and sticks it down her bodice where only handkerchiefs and old ladies go. No. She just seems to like straighten a couple things up and seems satisfied with that, maybe a little OCD. And then she breaks the news to you.
Okay.
Unfortunately, my mission was unsuccessful, but it's fate, not my fault.
Do tell.
Your interest in the item has apparently spurred Mr. Crick Thittledon to have it appraised immediately, and he sent it to the Elven Temple. An elf cleric opinion of the item will obviously overshadow any shadow of a doubt that I cast upon it, though I did try.
Aye, that's no fault of your own, lass. I couldn't hold it against you even if I wanted to.
Appreciated.
You didn't happen to catch the name of the appraiser in question, did you? Or would happen to know their whereabouts?
She just looks at you blankly like, are you kidding me? The Great Dream House. About 30 priests and acolytes that call that monastery of a building home. Doesn't ring any bells, she says.
Right. How foolish of me. The town's not big enough to have a multitude of elven enclaves.
The head cleric is named Kellen Coronadel.
Kellen, you say?
He venerates that flappy butterfly goddess. Obviously a term she's picked up from Theon.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
The old fool actually invites the public into the temple's observatory to gaze at the stars and ponder the callings of the goddess and travelers. If you want to rub elbows and get under his skin in a favorable way before just grilling him about the item, you might want to wait till tonight.
Sounds like a good idea. You've been most helpful today. I'll be sure Theon knows how cooperative you've been. And perhaps in the future we can have some discussions of these business skills you have once we get production rolling at the brewery.
I'd like compensation now. She takes a step back and shows you the open bedroom. Remember all the spikes and everything came out and paled murals?
The open bedroom?
Yeah.
I don't know what impression you're getting from me, miss, but I don't really think you could handle what this dwarf has to offer.
Well, that bed isn't going to make itself. So hop to it. She wants you to straighten up her shit while she watches, you know, way OCD. A new level of voyeurism.
Voyeurism, yeah. It's like some dominatrix bullshit going on right
I
there.
want you to straighten up my room.
My bed.
That's right.
Sort and pencils.
That's
shortest
right.
to longest.
Yep. Let's go.
All right, I'm on it.
Seriously? I thought you were gonna, like, I draw the line. Okay, so like 5 minutes later, you know, she's just standing in the doorway. You know, just
no.
arms.
Oh, I'm
yeah.
so good at it. She'd
Yeah,
probably be heavy breathing at this point.
Yeah, it's arms folded, just kind of like one finger pursed against her lips, looking at you like a cat at a mouse, like, And what was he saying, Messsina? He's like, he's bitching about how she insisted on hospital corners.
Yeah, he's doing like military sheets. These things are tight. You can bounce a quarter off these things.
He's like bouncing a coin. She's like, do it again.
Fluff the pillow.
So that's how we spend our afternoon, is like, you know, messing up and remaking the bed just for you can bounce a silver piece. All right. And then off to the temple he goes. This is like the fastest, like in 1 hour, we've burned 3 days. It's like the fastest game.
How you do it.
Solo game. All right. So that night, waiting, hoping it's one of the nights for the, you know, you go to the Great Dream House, which is north of the Quarters and Bits on the next corner, in the center area of the West Wall in our town here. And I'll just, you know, just pull the map up here and there it is. It looks like a horseshoe on its side with a domed centrical building plopped on top. And the place, like she said, is sparse and run kind of like a monastery. Though there are the, you know, attributes and, you know, affiliations of Desna everywhere you look, it is pretty, it's not gauche, it's not over the top with all the fixtures and gold and like a cleric, you know, a temple, everything might rake in. Okay.
So it's more like a monastery than it is like an ornate temple.
Mm-hmm. And you see weary travelers of all stripes of rest coming to rest, like wealthy merchants that just know it's a cheap place to crash and all. And it's like the holy bed and breakfast, where as long as you take the Christian pamphlet and eat the waffles, you know, sweet bed, rest, blah. Everybody loves listening about the goddess of travelers, Desna, and her symbol, of course, being the butterfly. It happens to be a clear summer night, and the head priest, Kellen Caronadil, has opened the doors to the public. Quite a few people, including some, you know, business owners and stuff, way to kick back, right? You even happen to run into Crick.
Of course.
Right? And he's there, and you see another halfling that he's pointing at. Must be Miss Nolly Peltry. Right? But she looks like she's there having some kind of business conversation with some of the acolytes before she like jets out of there and they have their ceremony of astral stargazing, right? But he sees you and he's just like kind of does the hand wave, puts up the two hands and does the crook thumb going over there, that one, you know, like it's like the only halfling within 30 feet. So obvious, right?
Yeah.
Remember our deal, 3%, you know, that kind of, remember our deal, 3%, you know, kind of thing. So things die down as far as the social, and then things rev up, and Kellen Cordial starts into like an evening mass, right? Short bit, opens the stars, they speak for themselves, and it's a whole bunch of people just wandering on stargazing, having quiet, hushed little whispered conversations while Cordial is pointing out certain, you know, and here you can see this, here you can see this, and he'll go from group to group, you know. Oh, you know, Father, can you tell us what these stars are? They're very twinkly. Oh, of course, you know, and he astrogates for you, kind of thing. And it's kind of like a casual, if not sore neck, cricked upwards by the end of the evening kind of event. They have like little bread and cheese and water and some very simple wine. It's probably watered down for your taste, you know, that type of thing. But yeah,
It's okay. I got my flask.
it's kind of like a really low rent real estate open house. You know, you just come in, you wander, there's some cheap ass food to bring
Mingle,
yeah,
yeah.
there you go. There you go.
All right. I'll wait till I can get an opportunity to approach, or till the
Yeah.
priest approaches me. And
Yeah, no, eventually he does the regulars and he comes over and you know, he says, welcome to the great dream house. Yes. It's not that Jeff has forgotten the accent he gave me the first time. It's just, for starters, you don't strike me as an asshole. And we all had some peyote or something before. It was, you know, it was in the brownies. And now we're just, I mean, look at everyone. They're stoked. You know?
Well, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Pleasure's all
Maybe Albrecht Stone Chugger.
Okay. He comes to you, but he doesn't close in that space like a business person would, like glad hand you whatever. There's that reverent space where he pulls up short, like a doctor or someone that, like, you know, this is my professional space. Even he welcomes you, but when he stops talking, instead of shaking your hand, he just folds his hands back into his robe sleeve, like, you know.
Yep. I have to say, being of the dwarven persuasion, I'm more akin to there being a mountain above me rather than the stars, but your deity does offer a certain
Majesty?
Sure, that's the word I was going for.
Fulfillment? Possibly. Hey, excuse me. And he rushes off to like a corner and starts giving somebody shit. And the crowd parts, and sure enough, there's that gnome. Right. And he's like, he's managed to like bring in a box with no one noticing. And he's got it like a crowbar. He's standing on the 6x6 box that he's gotten in here somehow with no one noticing. And he's just crowbarred open the front. And this, like, you know, there's a big thud as the front panel drops open. And inside it looks like some kind of crazy telescope on wheels. And he's hopped down. He starts wheeling it out. And Father so-and-so runs over going, excuse me. What are you doing? And they get into some like a hushed argument about, you know, what open house really means to the public, you know.
These crackers are free, right? If I eat these crackers right here, I can eat as many crackers as I want, right?
Trying to distract him like somebody goes by with a tray. Our hospitality is not the issue, sir. This, you know, what is this? And, you know, the house that doesn't, it's going on. It's like, you know, trying to explain to the nice guys, like, you can enjoy the stars all you want. And this is how he enjoys them, apparently. But, you know, anyway, he finally convinces, after a lot of depletion of crackers, for this little dude to pack up with the help of some other acolytes, and they get on a dolly and they kind of like wheel his shit out and he disappears. But that whole thing takes like a good 30 minutes before you get him back.
Well, I'm just going to ride the peyote wave.
Okay. Well, they all had, I think they had some, but they weren't offering it. It was like they had some before, you know, like, you search around, see if there's anybody that's got any left, right? Oh, well.
No, I'll mix and mingle to a certain extent. You know, obviously anybody who seems like they want to be private, I'm not going to intrude upon them,
but you know, I mean, you meet the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, but we'll get back to that. We'll get back to that. It's focusing on getting back to Father Carondel.
And then after, you know, the drama has
subsided,
finished up.
Yeah.
I'll, you know, pull him aside and just say, terribly sorry. I can't help but feel we were interrupted before. I just wanted to, you know, pack your brain about a few things, if you don't mind.
Of course. Desna's knowledge is for all. I am merely a conduit.
And then I'll actually pick his brain about the religious symbols of Desna.
Okay. Bugs, flappy waves in the sky, all kinds of things, but nothing really avian as far as birds go.
Okay. Very interesting. And then I'll allude to the bird symbol and ask him if there is any other goddess or god in that his people worship that would speak to that kind of symbolism.
He claims blasphemy, demands satisfaction, and they roll you into a back room, 30 guys pounce on you, and they flail you. Then they bring you back to the party. Oh, sorry. Boy, these guys are really high strung. No, sorry.
Sean the non-believer! Sean the non-believer! Sean!
The gnome's back. It's getting the crowd riled up against you. No, he assures you that the Desna religion doesn't really have a lot of the avian creatures entwined.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. I admit it's probably very strange for you to have a dwarf in here inquiring about these sorts of things. Do you see many of my kind here?
Oh, this is Rorsk Axebane, one of the town's stonemasons, is a fine fellow, and has come in from time to time.
Aye, he's a hell of a dwarf.
And of course, there's the councilman, but he doesn't say his name. He just says there's a councilman. Like maybe he's got beef with him, right? Like if you can't say nice things, don't say anything. But
cool. All right. And then I'll inquire about his appraisal services.
Oh, as in, I understand you've been.
Yeah.
Or are you asking like, hey,
I understand you're the one.
If I brought you something religious, could you appraise it for me?
Yeah, I just, I understand that you're the guy to talk to in town when it comes to identifying items of historic importance.
Oh, no. Obviously the religious aspects of Desna and a smattering of elvish religion and history itself, because of my advanced years. But history of Isgard in general, and he goes on about like the area, like,
Yeah.
misunderstanding.
And I'll inquire, have many elves long called this region their home? Is there a history in this area of the elven people?
If there is, it's long and far ago. Like this has been like, there's the tip of the Dwarven Five King sleeping up in Iskar, which used to be run by the Hell Knight. Like there's the their country. What's the name of it? Cheliax.
I knew it was a C.
Yeah, Cheliax used to have this place, and then those Chelaxians. Yeah.
However you can swing it.
Yeah, history skills are like lore, and then there's religion and society, where society covers a lot of history as well. Anyway, so it's not like he's evading your questions or whatever. Maybe he's just not getting what you're laying down.
Okay.
But you are, like, I know you try to be chummy and schmoozey and go about this in a roundabout way, but
yeah, okay.
So he's the guy to ask.
He's the guy to
and
ask.
He was like, "Oh no," and he went off on some like, "Oh, Cheliax
tangent about
elves,
the history." Yep. And I'll ask him if many people have been coming to him as of late.
Can I have a diplomacy check from you, sir? Get some great
Certainly.
RP going here, back and forth, but throwing in the diplomacy too.
24.
Okay. See, you got them all warmed up, right? And sorry, your next train of thought was asking about the coming and going.
And maybe instead not quite asking him directly, but more be like, well, I'd imagine you've got all sorts of folks coming in.
Oh, like,
you know what I mean?
There's this and that, but like just the other day, one of our local shopkeepers, asked for some knowledge about something tied to an elvish religion, and I've helped how I could, that type of thing. But if you had a specific question,
you tell.
I just did. He's vague about it, but he obviously, it came here through his hands.
Yep.
Foz wasn't shitting you.
No. Okay. Yeah, I don't really know. I'm not even sure how to allude without pissing people off, and I'd really rather not piss people off. So, it's already been appraised by him. So I guess I'll probably.
I guess you could ask like, oh, what was that? That kind
yeah. That's what I mean. Like,
hate to waste a 24 on you, right? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, Oh, truly. Oh, it's very interesting. And
A fascinating item, magical. I believe it had a symbol which is within the realms, domains, portfolios, and dogma of Kreptis, one of the elven gods, because of its bird-like, bird of prey motif on the arrowhead itself. He says, I couldn't obviously tell them too much about the item, but I was able to recommend someone that could know more than myself.
Oh, there's someone even more with more expertise in that like thing. If you don't mind me asking, could you give me their name?
Well, of course. Across town, the lovely Lady Elf Cleric of Shaylin, the Lady Tarinderla Valindal. I told our local merchant to take his item and inquire with her. Her studies of Shaylin obviously rival next to none in town. None can rival her knowledge of Shaylin, obviously. But as far as certain elvish religions outside our own, just to be thorough, I'm afraid what I told him possibly wasn't, much help. So I recommended that she could possibly say more. Yep. Another freaking elf cleric across town.
Whee!
Yep.
I'll thank him for his time and
Okay.
give him the whole may
Yep.
Desna's blessings ever be upon you.
Yep. All right.
Drop a silver into the offering plate on my way out the door.
Sure. There you go. Okay. So it's the middle of the night. Do you want to do this tomorrow?
Yeah, probably would. Well, actually, I'll go for a stroll through town and walk by the shop and see if there's a light on in the window.
Okay,
You know
well,
what I mean?
it's a temple, and
okay.
heading across town to the east side and across the bridge, and right at one of the bridges there stands a bracketed shaped building, the curved around with the front aeon coming out,
Yep.
Shaylin Smile. This segmented building right on Breach Creek is both headquarters for Breach Hill's Artesian Guild, as well as the temple to Shaylin, the goddess of art, beauty, love, and music.
Sweet.
But I'm afraid worship to the eternal rose through sculpture, painting, and just downright skullduggery is closed for the day. But you do peg the where it is.
Okay. Yeah, head on back
home, sleep, pick up some toilet paper at the grocery store on your way home.
Yep. Drop it off.
Next day.
I'll splurge and get the 2-ply.
Oh, there you go. You'll be thankful. Rise and shine next day and head off to Shaylin Smile, the temple?
Yep.
All right. You're met by acolytes. They worship, they do everything certain type of day, that type of thing. But the guild president, as well as the head cleric, right, the Lady Valderel, is very busy and can only see you by appointment.
Make an appointment.
All right.
When's the earliest convenience?
We can pencil you in for next month.
Oh, my goodness. Well, next month isn't going to work for me. Can I bribe my way in?
You can try. You want to do a little diplomacy with a bribe for a bonus?
Yeah.
How much are we talking?
Well, let's start at a silver and work our way up.
That's like saying, let's start with an insult and then get around to compliments.
It's called negging. You should look into it.
Have you ever seen any scene like, hey, maitre d', my man, can you get me into the restaurant/concert? I lay that $5 bill in his hand and see how that goes, right?
Spin a gold coin on the guy's desk. be a real pleasure if I was able to get in to see her sooner.
Now, in this game, silver is like gold.
Yeah.
So that's like 10 silver, which is like you spending a platinum. If I'm not mistaken. Okay.
Yep.
I will check with her immediately to see if there's any cancellations this very day. Scoop, best I can do. And they run off. Anyway,
Yep.
they leave you there for like a good 20 minutes. You're starting to wonder if Buddy just like, I'm going on break, or like, I'm out the back and off to the, Caden's Keg to have roulette night. Bye.
Down the street he
Yeah,
goes.
see ya. Yeah.
Peace out.
Yep. Another acolyte comes and says, looks around and spots you like one of the only dwarves in the room and says, excuse me, are you the gentleman that was speaking with acolyte number 4? That kind of thing.
Yep.
Were you talking to Greg? Was it you? Okay. Thank you, because now it's Taco Tuesday and we all get lunch, but okay. Come with me, please.
I will follow.
All right. Leads you to an office behind which sits an absolute beautiful blonde-haired, blue glossy-eyed, because all the elves now in second edition have that sort of glass-eyed look. If you look hard, you can see the shape of the pupil and everything, but they do have sort of the iris and the actual, 3-segment of eye. You don't get that white color and then the black dial. They just have sort of a gloss over, but if you look carefully, they actually do have a functioning sort of twinkling iris and such. It's trick of the light. Thin pursed lips, straggly, thin, but still well kept under a gem-studded hairnet. Flowing, artistic-looking robes denoted to her goddess, as well as sort of I wouldn't say it's a business suit, but they do look somewhat formal.
Okay.
She is behind paperwork, a stack of a desk. The room is adorned with beautiful objects on shelves and stuff, that type of thing, that are, rare statues of couples entwined and paintings and, that type of thing. Funny enough, she has purchased one of the paintings that you guys found at Hell Knight Hill.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you wouldn't think somebody would like find something the Knights like historical battle or whatever, beautiful, but that crumpled up, rolled up stack that's over there stuffed in with the umbrellas for now, right? With the trim, like it's unmistakable. That's got to be one of the paintings you guys yanked off a wall. Obviously, it's found her way into her hands, and she's put it in a corner like to have it framed later or whatever, that kind of thing. It's like, one of these things, don't belong. And there she is, giant quill, feather pen, and she's, actually she's just staying there talking at the page. It's a quick quotes quill, and it's just writing by itself. Scribble, 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 scribble.
So I'll approach the desk and give a polite bow. I appreciate you making the time to see me on such short notice.
Okay. She glances up sharply, nods once, and then goes back to her writing.
I was wondering perhaps if I could pick your brain.
Okay. The head juts up, eyebrow shoots up. There's a pause. The quill pauses.
I'm trying to track down some info on an artifact that I was told has recently passed your desk.
She still waits, looking at you.
And perhaps you could assist me, of course, after a generous donation to your establishment.
You see the wheels turning, and then very slowly the head tilts to one side and sort of nods like, yes, go on.
And I'll take out another gold coin and set it down on the table and inquire about the carved arrowhead.
Okay. She looks at the single coin and then looks back at you blankly. Goes back to her writing.
And I'll ask a question and set another coin on top of it.
Okay.
So is this the kind of thing you'd see come across your desk often?
Diplomacy?
Skills, diplomacy. 16.
Okay. 2 gold pieces is actually like 20, because that would be 20 silver.
Yep.
Okay. The second that second piece hits the desk, okay, she immediately takes what she's doing, flips it over, grabs an empty piece of paper, and artistically, efficiently, and yet just black pen and ink effigy scribbles out a sketch of the very arrowhead you're looking for, and then frantically writes a bunch of stuff on the bottom in Elvish and hands it to you, like as if to denote everything you want's right here, including a picture. But it's written in Elven.
Yep. My lady, you are quite skilled. I appreciate this very much.
The corners of her mouth tip up in a very, very faint smile. And then she nods at the door, head goes back down, and she just starts going back to her paperwork.
Yep. I'll take the piece of paper, bow again. May Shailen's hand ever grace your crafts.
She waves a hand at you and lets out a great big belch, and off you go.
Yep. Sweet. I don't speak Elvish. I certainly don't read it.
Back to Voz we go.
Yep.
Okay. Or do we trust her and just go back to the other cleric, right?
No, I'd go to Voz with it.
Okay.
I think. Don't want to create too much of a paper trail, so to speak.
All right.
So bring it back to Voz. What's it say?
She reads it over. Eyebrow slowly goes up. She turns back to you, thrusts the paper in your hand, right? And then taps the picture. This is your portal key.
Great.
At least
That's exactly the information I was looking for, Les.
At least, she says, snapping the paper back up in the air, for one of the portals.
Well, one's better than none.
She folds her arm, paper still in between her fingers, but I have a good idea which one. Too bad there's no druids I know in town offhand that could verify. And then she just starts pondering. But she did mention a druid.
Yep.
Which gets your wheels turning. Which brings us to you summoning Meros and penning a certain parchment that we've already covered, denoting our human cleric, which leads to the events, which brings us to everything you want to see next episode. But we do have some more to discuss before we end.